This week the RMT union are on strike. Their demands, despite what the media might have you believe, aren't particularly radical. They want no compulsory redundancies and a pay rise, which means their wages keep up with inflation. In other words, they don't want to get poorer in real terms. Now, some have claimed this is greedy and that the union is being selfish. You've probably heard inaccurate numbers flying around about how much RMT workers earn. For the record, the average employee at the union is on £31,000 a year, hardly a king's ransom, and more or less the national average. But here's the thing. It is true that there are some people in Britain's rail industry who earn extraordinary sums of money, dare I say, too much. And it's time we started to talk about them and question whether how much they earn is acceptable. Say hello to this man, Andrew Haynes. Haynes is the CEO for Network Rail. He recently said that any strikes would make a pay increase harder for workers. Mr. Haynes earns more than £585,000 a year. That's before bonuses, I should add. Then there's Jeremy Westlake, also at Network Rail, where he's the company's chief financial officer. He earns a paltry £415,000 a year. Again, that's before bonuses. There's Susan Cooklin, managing director for route services at Network Rail. She earns £385,000 before bonuses. And Nicholas King, group director for network services, he earns just £330,000. Maybe he's jealous of his colleagues while earning comparatively so little, a mere £6,000 a week. Who knows? I could go on, but you probably get the picture by now. Network Rail has almost 50 employees earning more than the Prime Minister. The 73 highest earners at the organisation earn a combined £15 million a year. Network Rail, it should be said, is a public body. But things are even worse among the CEOs and senior executives of the various private rail operators. They seem to be well rewarded regardless of how shoddy and overpriced their services are. Matthew Gregory, CEO of First Group, is one example. First Group operates several lines across the UK, such as the Trans-Pennine Express and Great Western Railway. In 2018, Matthew Gregory received a basic salary of £635,000, and that's before bonuses. And then there's Christian Schreier. He's the CEO at Go Ahead, which has a controlling stake in Govia, which runs Govia Thameslink Railway, which runs Southern, the people that rarely turn up on time. All these efficiencies in privately run rail companies are complicated, aren't they? His predecessor, David Brown, earned £1.27 million in 2019 and a paltry $558,000 in 2020, presumably because he got no bonuses during COVID. How sad. And that's a good guide to how much Schreier now earns. Then there's Patrick Verwer. He's the managing director of UK Rail at Go Ahead and took home £482,000. You guessed it, again, that was before bonuses. Best of all was Gordon Boyd, the interim chief finance officer of Go Ahead Group last year. He received an all-inclusive salary of £1.2 million. This is just a handful of names I could highlight, but it's also worth mentioning that other operators active in the UK, including the likes of Arriva and Trenitalia, are publicly owned. But that's okay because it's by foreign countries, not the UK. Trenitalia runs the Avanti West Coast line alongside First Group, as well as the Essex Thameside route. It is owned by the Italian government. So not only are we paying the extraordinary salaries of UK fat cats, but we're also subsidising publicly owned rail operators in other countries. But we can't take rail into public ownership ourselves, of course. That doesn't work. What we have now is far more rational and efficient. It turns out that in Britain's privatised rail industry, you can earn megabucks. And nobody will mention it, especially not the media or the Tory government. No, they would rather focus instead on hard-working men and women who just want their wages to buy as much as last year, and who, on average, earn just over £30,000 a year. Worst of all, and this is really unbelievable, the board of Go Ahead, who can be paid in excess of £1 million a year when you include pensions and bonuses, can travel for free on the network's trains. They don't pay. Cleaners on the network, or the people who maintain the carriages and the tracks, well, they do have to pay. So these people on telephone number salaries also get freebies, and we're footing the bill. And still, they don't think that regular rail workers should have wage increases which keep up with the rising cost of living. It's a national scandal. and a great amount of money is spent by establishment media precisely not to talk about it. The public and rail users are being taken for fools, not only by the government, nothing new there of course, but by some in the rail industry too. But that isn't those on the picket lines or the RMT's Mick Lynch. It's the hundreds of people in the industry, hundreds, who earn more than the Prime Minister. These are private companies, you might say. They can pay what they want. No, these are companies subsidised by the taxpayer, us, who are being awarded public contracts. The least they can do is pay workers properly and provide a cheap, reliable service for customers. Right now, they're failing on every count. There is a problem with people being overpaid in Britain's rail industry. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But those people, well, they're at the top.